welcome. Welcome in or welcome back. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So this is the full moon in True Sky Sagittarius reading for you, the Divine Collective. So this is a general reading. So take what resonates and leave the rest for those that it will resonate for. And at the moment, we currently do still have the sun transiting through the sign of True Sky Gemini, and therefore this moon is beautifully placed in True Sky Sagittarius. However, if you are a follower of the True Sky astrology, you will note that not all oppositions and aspects are in the signs you would think, because the wheel is not equally divided. So in the True Sky, some signs are a lot smaller and some signs are a lot bigger. Gemini is a decent size. Cancer, which is quite small, coming up. Leo is bigger. Virgo's huge. I think the biggest, Virgo and Pisces. And then you've got Scorpio and Ophiuchus, the smallest, I believe. Libra, small too. So yeah, so it's interesting that this is quite a traditional full moon opposition here with traditionally Sag and Gemini. And it's got some interesting aspects as well. So obviously Mercury is now retrograde. In the True Sky, Mercury is still in Gemini. So we are going to have the retrograde completely in Gemini in the True Sky. And so it's quite significant having this happen just before the the full moon. So we here have the full moon on the 30th. However, it's really early in the morning. And I think in the other parts of the world, it's the 29th. I know most people are talking about the 29th being the full moon. So we have some interesting alignments coming up in July, which obviously, if you watch the sign readings, you will learn a little bit more about them. And as we go through the month, I can talk more about them. However, yeah, this is the full moon reading. So the cards I'm using for this solar transit through the sign of Gemini are mostly fairy or fairy tale themed decks. And the first deck that we have is the Mystic Fairy Tarot. And on the bottom of the deck, we have, for this full moon, the Five of Pentacles. So there might be an underlying energy of hard times, financially hard times, potential poverty and scarcity. So it is interesting because Geminis aren't the best with money. They're good in exchanging it because it is a sign that is linked with merchants. So all that kind of activity, which obviously deals in money. And then also Sagittarius, which is a very spiritual sign. So it's quite removed from money. Jupiter is very abundant. However, I think because it is so abundant, they spend money really easily because it comes to them. So there could be a bit of energy with that. Maybe there's like some overspending going on. I'm not exactly sure. However, I am aware that pretty much the whole world at this stage, as far as I'm aware, is living in basically a cost of living crisis. So there's that too. The first card, however, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So the Ace of Pentacles does bring a new financial opportunity. Then we have the Knight of Pentacles, which brings a potential person. They could be, say, late teens to early 30s, and they could be of the earth signs or strong prominent earth houses or the ruling planets of the earth signs in their chart. If it's not a person, it could just be that there is some kind of financial opportunity coming in again. However, the Knight of Pentacles always slows these things down. So this is your crowning card for this reading. So there may be this underlying, you know, financial hard times, but there is more coming in. It's just that it might take a little bit longer. Then we have the Strength card for you. So the Strength card is all about using your inner strength to get you through hard times, using your courage to overcome fears and to use your inner wisdom to guide you into doing the right thing. Then we have the Judgment card. So this is really interesting. The Judgment card is flanking our central card today. And we also have the Ace of Wands. So there could be something really significant happening for you at the moment or around you. And it could even trigger like spiritual growth. It could feel like it's a bit of a divine, you know, whether it's a message or a divine manifestation at this time. It can be a really good time to actually devote yourself to some kind of spiritual practice to calm the mind and, you know, open your heart and mind. And if you can meditate or something like that to connect with higher forces, because there is that universal higher being, higher energies around at this time. And it's flanking the central card, so which is a card that the Seven of Swords is about mistakes. So there is a potential for making mistakes at the moment, and it's due to acting in haste. So not thinking about things before you're doing them. And the advice is definitely to try to take the time to think about something before acting on it. And you could even ask, say, your angels or your guides or your ancestors or your gods, or, you know, those that you are in contact with spiritually to help you at this time, because then you do have the Ace of Wands, which isn't really a card of haste, but it is a card that has a lot of energy and new passions developing. So that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just think about what you're doing before you actually act on anything at this time. Then you have the Ace of Swords here at the bottom, and this is connecting our Judgment card, and also we have Death at the bottom for the base of the matter. So this time is going to involve significant change. There is some dramatic change happening at the moment. And this Ace of Swords is about new ideas. It can mean there's a message coming in, and potentially even here with this Judgment card, it could even be a message from, say, your guardians or your ancestors or something like that. So it could be a really, really good time to try to, you know, take some time to seek that inner peace. And if you have a practice, a personal practice that does involve communing with even your inner voice, it doesn't have to be, you know, angels or something else that you go to advice for, but connecting with that inner peace, that inner calm, could be really beneficial at this time. And you might even find there's new ideas that come up as well. And it could even be linked to this ending. So there's some kind of ending. Then we have the Queen of Pentacles. So we've got quite a few pentacles here. We have the Ace, we have the Knight, we have the Queen. And we do currently have Mars and Uranus in Taurus, and they're going to conjoin on the 4th of July. It's going to be, I think, a bit dramatic because they are squaring the nodes as well. So it is quite an energy coming up. We do also later on in the month have Venus conjoining the South node as well. So that will be interesting as well. So the next cards I'm going to clarify with for you are the Victorian Fairy Tarot, and very interestingly we have again the 5 of Autumn. However, in this deck it's autumn, but the autumn suit in this deck is like your Pentacles. So we kind of have a double confirmation there that there's going to be an underlying energy this month of, you know, maybe lack of resources, some kind of scarcity. The card itself doesn't have to mean it actually is scarcity. It can also just be a attitude. So there can be a scarcity as in you don't have very good manifesting thoughts with your mind. Maybe you're thinking very negatively and you're getting stuck in that loop of negative thinking. So to clarify the Ace of Pentacles, we have the 10 of Winter. So this is like your 10 of Swords. It's not an easy energy. However, the advice is to move on. There's a painful situation you've been going through and it's ended. It's ending. And you need to move on for your own health and sanity. You need to, you know, get out of this situation and move on to something better. And to have the Ace of Pentacles clarified with this, it would be that maybe it might take some finances to move on, but it will actually bring more positive rewards than negative. So it is something you need to do. The Knight of Pentacles clarified by the Ace of Summer. So the Ace of Summer is like your Ace of Cups. So this is more about a potential love offer, or some kind of maybe even friendship or a spiritual connection. An emotional new beginning is here. And it's linked to this Knight of Pentacles. So maybe this Knight of Pentacles could be someone in your life and they're actually offering you some kind of emotional nourishment. Then for the Strength card, we actually have the Awakening card. So the Awakening card is basically the same as the Judgment card. So we have that doubled as well. So there's definitely a very spiritual energy here for this full moon. Sagittarius is a spiritual sign. It's a fire sign, and Jupiter, you know, was a very powerful god. He was one of the most powerful gods. So Sagittarius, I think some people don't always understand the energy. I think because it is that mutable fire, which can seem maybe a bit too dangerous or rebellious, but it's actually a very spiritual sign. And currently us having Jupiter in True Sky Cancer really brings such a positive energy, because it is exalted in Cancer, and Cancer is the sign of the mother and nourishment and all these things. And so ultimately, you know, there are some gods that like to punish and maybe imprison and things like that. But there are gods that actually wish well for us. They do want us to evolve and to be better, and also to provide us with that nourishment. Because once you are nourished, you see through a lot of the ignorance. A lot of bad things do happen because there is a lack, or there is some, you know, unfairness. Or I'm not saying with everyone's situation, because I cannot judge everyone, and I'm not the judge here either. Ultimately, you know, there's higher forces than me. So, but it is an interesting energy, the Sagittarius energy, because they can be a bit judgmental too. So we have the Judgment card twice here, which I think is quite interesting. And then having it with the Strength, I think, is really saying that this energy will really help to make you stronger as well. So really try to connect with some kind of spiritual practice if you can for this full moon and around this period. So this is probably the only full moon we'll have in Sag for the whole year. The next one will be in Capricorn. So for the actual Judgment card, we have the Two of Autumn. So this is like your Two of Pentacles card. And it does suggest that there needs to be some kind of balance going on here with finances. So maybe you might need to prioritize certain things in your life at this time. You might not have like enough to do everything that you want right now. So maybe even write it down, what you were doing. It's always a really good thing to try to manage, obviously, your finances. If you can, like, get like an app or something, but make sure that you are taking note of the ins and outs in your finances and decision making. Then for the Seven of Swords, which was about that concerning energy about potentially making an unwise choice due to being rushed or hasty, or feeling that you don't have enough time to do something properly. So that is interesting too, because I do see a bit of that Sagittarian energy there with that mutable fire. We have the Wheel of Time to clarify. So the Wheel of Fortune is a Jupiter-ruled card. So how interesting that we do have that card to clarify the Seven of Swords, because also, that Seven of Swords being about, making decisions that maybe aren't the best, or that makes me think of Gemini, because obviously Gemini is a very lively, intellectual sign, and it has that dual nature to it. Obviously it's the twins, and then it also has Mercury there with the intellect, and Geminis often can see both sides of a coin. They're good at kind of seeing a lot of different realities and opinions and things like that, and that's what makes them very wise. So it is interesting. It's the central card, I think, for this reading, because we do have that Gemini plus Sagittarius energy, and then also having the Wheel of Fortune really blesses you. So obviously think through whatever you're doing to make the right decision for you, but know that you are blessed. Don't fear. Don't bring that fearful energy, which we had in that shadow energy of the decks today, with you. Try to manifest something positive. Then for this Ace of Wands here, which was about the new passionate beginnings, we have the Knight of Spring. So the Knight of Spring is basically like your Knight of Wands. So he's quite a quick, he's a fire of the fire signs or houses or the significant planets ruling. So it could be an individual. It doesn't have to be, but it's interesting we have two knights here as well. So the knights are generally of the, say, 18 to mid-30s kind of age range. But that one's the fiery one, whereas the other one was the earth one. It could also be that you need to take on these energies. So the Knight of Spring is a very, obviously fiery, passionate, creative. He's up for adventure, that kind of energy. Then for the Ace of Swords, which was these new ideas, we have the Five of Spring. So the Five of Spring is like your Five of Wands. So it is a conflict card. So it is a conflict card, as in there will be lots of different people maybe that you're working with, or maybe in your situation, and they all have different ideas and different approaches, and there's potential for disagreements and arguments. And the advice is to really work on your leadership skills and to try to, learn to compromise, learn to guide, learn to lead, ultimately to try to resolve these conflicts. And this is also for the Ace of Swords. So it's about new ideas. So there might be a lot of new ideas come up, or a lot of people in your life have new ideas and everyone's wanting, to jump on them, but you really need to kind of filter through and figure out what is best for you at this time. Then for the Death card, we have the Four of Summer. So the Four of Summer is like your Four of Cups. So it is a card of sadness and also discontent. It's not the greatest card, but potentially if there is an actual death this month, which there could be, the Death card does not have to mean a death, but it's some kind of ending. There is some sadness or some discontent around this. So maybe you didn't want a certain situation to go that way. Maybe you didn't want it to end, or someone else didn't want it to end. But there is a sense of discontent and sadness to do with this ending. Then for the Queen of Pentacles, we have the Six of Winter. So the Queen of Pentacles could be you, it could be someone you know, or it could just be an aspect that you're needing to learn. So she's very resourceful and she's a leader. She is a feminine though, so she has a softer energy. However, she's often very linked with, you know, motherhood and the earth and, you know, fertility and abundance, and like she's a very prosperous feminine force. And here she is with the Six of Winter, and the Six of Winter is about having been through hard times and actually having left them behind. You're now in a better place. So potentially this Queen of Pentacles could have been through this situation. It could be you, it could be someone in your life, or even that going through such a situation might even teach you to be, or whoever it is, more resourceful and more wise with their resources. You know, it could also be that as well. So the next cards I'm going to pull from are the magical messages from the fairies. And on the bottom of the deck we have emotional healing. As your heart heals of old emotional pain, you receive new blessings and love. That's the underlying energy. Then we have, you've got the power. Use your abilities to resolve this situation. You can do it. And that is for this Knight of Pentacles with the Cup. So there's something you need to resolve. And it is linked to a Knight of, or it doesn't have to be a person, but it's some kind of finances coming in and some kind of nourishment. So you can do it. Do some research. You need more information about this situation. Look into it further before proceeding. So that's interesting advice, considering the main card was that Seven of Swords, which was saying don't act too quickly. Don't make bad decisions because out of haste, you know. And then we've got this Wheel of Fortune, which is like the wheel turns in your favor. So if you just do some research, look into what you're doing, you should be fine. You should be fine. And then we have Sun. Your son is watched over and protected as he explores his world. So this is for the Death and the Four of Summer. So there is a change here and there's some kind of sadness or longing, but your son or someone's son here is being looked after and protected through this situation. The next cards I'm going to pull from are the Fraud Fairies Oracle. And on the bottom of the deck we have Spirit Dancer. So that is the underlying energy of the deck. However, Spirit Dancer represents self-expression, freedom, and exploration. Now is the time to focus and really concentrate on a project or process, especially one involving the creative arts. Spontaneity balanced by self-discipline will help us achieve our goals. Strive for elegance and simplicity. This is a time to bring out and share qualities that we have nurtured in private. So maybe there is something that you've been working on in private that needs to be seen by others. Wow, that's a lot of blue. Interesting kind of different shades as well. So the first card we have is the Singer of Initiation, symbolizing passage through trial, triumph, and new level. Breakthrough. Drawing this card notifies us that significant change and challenge are both occurring in our lives, with the potential for moving into a new realm. which involves a new way of being. This major change has been building for a long time, and the moment is now here to meet this challenge. We may already be aware of the initiation process, but perhaps have only seen it as bad luck or fate. It is neither. It is an opportunity to see if we have, deep down, truly learned the lessons we have been working on and are willing to apply them in our lives. Often knowing just what the initiation is about can seem one of the most difficult aspects of the process. However, once passed, it eventually will all become clear in hindsight. For now, we only need to know, as the singer said to the one Oracle group member, "It can be done. Look within your heart." The presence of the singer of initiation in a reading often presages a period of success, of seeing, accepting, and using our own powers at a higher and more ethical level. We move into greater fulfillment of our potentials. It also means taking on a new level of responsibility for ourselves and in the world. The gate is open to us, but we must take the action of stepping through it. So that's really powerful. And that card to clarify that you've got the power as well. So there's some kind of initiation happening here. And then the central card for you is the fairy godmother. So she symbolizes gifts, talents, grace, and helpful lessons. Her name's Sari. Sari offers last-minute rescues. When she turns up in our readings, good things may well be happening that we don't think we deserve, or that we do deserve but haven't thought to ask for. Almost imperceptibly, she teaches us about giving and receiving unconditionally, helping us to open our hearts to love and acceptance. She sometimes showers us with abundance. Keep an eye out for unexpected good fortune, especially when you thought you saw bad luck headed your way. Remember to say thank you by passing a kindness on to someone else. Practice a little fairy godmothering yourself and see how enjoyable it is. Part of the fun of it is to do so that the recipient doesn't know where the gift came from. So wow, she's beautiful and interesting. She's linked to the doing your research, but also this Wheel of Fortune as well. And to me, even thinking about it, that Wheel of Fortune with the Jupiter and then the Jupiter being in Cancer, you know, the fairy godmother is almost like a Jupiter in Cancer type of energy. And then we have the guardian at the gate, symbolizing passages to new life, openings, and gatekeeping. So that's really interesting too, because the alignment that we're in at the moment with that Sagittarius Gemini energy does link in with the galactic center and the galactic anticenter, which some regard as gateways, the golden gate and the silver gate. So that's interesting too. Drawing this card indicates that a passage is being made to the beginning of something new in our lives. It speaks of new opportunities and new openings. Passing through the gate may lead to a physical journey, a mental or an emotional one, or a journey of the spirit. It always leads to adventure. This gateway will also lead to significant change in our lives. The passage through such a gate changes us. The gate we face may not seem like much. The decision to enter may not seem to be a matter of great moment, but the presence of the guardian at the gate tells us that something important is happening. It indicates that going forward through the gate is no small thing, but something to be approached with awareness and prayerfulness. We are embarking on a new phase in our lives, and there will be no going back once this gate has been passed. That is the kind of transition the guardian at the gate leads us to, always to irrevocable change. We may, of course, ask the guardian at the gate for guidance and protection on our journey, and we would be wise to do so. Alternatively, the presence of the gatekeeper in a reading may indicate the querent is being asked to help open a gate for someone else, to help provide an opportunity for them. The job of a gatekeeper or gatekeeper's assistant is merely to open the gate, not to push people through it. So, wow. So there's definitely a lot of free will involved, obviously. It's up to you. The next cards I'm going to pull from are the Fairy Ring Oracle. And on the bottom of the deck, we actually have... It's funny because we did have the Knight of Wands in this reading. We have Garcona. So I think Garcona is similar to your Knight of Wands. Even though in this stack he is number 6, he's not a knight. He is the love talker. So the Knight of Wands can be linked to the player card, or the player personality. So the appearance of the love talker indicates possible attractions and new relationships. Depending on surrounding cards, this card may imply temptation or instant gratification at the expense of long-term happiness. So that is definitely interesting because we have that underlying theme of that Seven of Swords saying, be careful about what decisions you make, don't be hasty. And then this guy is like this shadow energy here kind of saying, you know, almost encouraging you to do that. You know, it has that temptation energy and, you know, because that's something that people may do out of haste if they're tempted, or, you know, the whole instant gratification, which it's not worth it. Like, you know that once the moment's gone, it's, yeah, that kind of situation. So the first card we have, however, is Boban Seath. We have Tidiman and we have Amy. Interesting combination. So for the crowning card, we have the Eight of Autumn, the Boban Seath. So she appears in your cards and she actually heralds bad health, illness, energy drain, and a sense of oppression. So that is not a good energy to have. But interesting, she is linked to this initiation, this spirit of initiation. So be careful about what it is you are initiating and make sure that it's not something that's going to lead to those things. So this is for the Knight of Pentacles, the Ace of Cups, you having the power. So I think it's about overcoming temptation there as well. Has that energy as well. Then we have the central card. We have the Knave of Spring, and that's the Tidiman. So he actually heralds success, though not of a material nature. He does bring satisfaction, however, and a job well done. He represents a helpful friend and innocent pleasures. Tidiman may represent a real person in your life, a charming young man who is romantic and idealistic with old-fashioned ideas of chivalry and gentleness. So he, to me, is having almost a like Knight of Cups energy. Or, yeah, I think Knight or Page. So he's linked to our fairy godmother as well. Doesn't have to be a person though, but definitely could be. And then for the base of the matter, we have Aini. So Aini brings harmony, new romance, marriage, commitment, friendship, partnerships, and cooperation. And so this is linked to this gateway, the guardian at the gate. So potentially when you go through the gate, these good things are going to be there. The last cards I'm going to pull from are the fairy tale Lenormand. And on the bottom of the deck, we have a book. So this is some kind of significant either chapter in your life or story that is going on right now. And then we have stars, crossroads, and ring. Okay. Wow. So the stars is a really lucky card, and it is linked to like wishes and hopes and fears and fulfillment. So having this card of like illness here, I would say the star card really does overcome that. So the star card in the tarot, at least, is those hopes that we have after having gone through hard times. And sometimes when we do go through a sickness, it can really teach us a lot. Because, you know, when we're well, we have 1,000 problems. And then when we get sick, we realize we only have one, you know, that we need to get better. That sickness is you know, we need to get better. So it can really be a very meditative time, sickness. It can bring a focused experience. Obviously, it's not a nice experience, but once you know that, you know, you're going to get through it, it does have that energy as well. And this is to do with the initiation. So there's some kind of initiation going on here. It's, to me, giving a very manifesting energy with the star card, all about like hopes and wishes and things. Then we have the crossroads. So with the Titty Mum. So the Titty Mum was positive, potentially a person. Then we have this crossroads. So you're at some kind of crossroads in your life. You are. And it's linked to these wishes and hopes. And also this ring. So we have the ring here. And then also Aini did talk about potential marriage as well. So I'm not sure if you've got that kind of decision right now. So obviously the ring doesn't have to mean a marriage. It can just mean some kind of bond or binding experience. So it could mean like a contract of some kind. But yeah, there's a crossroads experience going on here. So these are the cards I have. Yeah, these are the cards that I've pulled for the full moon in True Sky Sagittarius. And just to speak a bit more about the actual astrology for this full moon. So we do currently have Venus in Leo as well. So I do think it's interesting that we did have, you know, some Venus energies coming up here. And I do think it's interesting that we did also have, like, say with the stars, which is linked to the Uranus and Aquarius. And we do have the North Node right now in Aquarius. We do have the South Node in Leo as well. So I feel like these energies are really being pulled in here. And obviously the nodes are a polarity. And then you have the full moon, which is the polarity with the sun. And then we have this crossroads, which to me is almost like a polarity. We have totally different paths here. I'm going to look back at these again. So it seems to me like this decision that needs to be made, that will lead to good fortune. You just need to do some research and even ask your fairy godmother or guides to help you with this decision. There's positive incoming. It's not a hugely abundant. However, we did have this Wheel of Fortune card, which does bring abundance. You know, it's that Jupiter energy. But this crossroads. So I'm getting from this card that one of these decisions is better than the other. And that ultimately, this is why they're saying to be careful about not acting in haste. Think about things before you do them. Because one of these decisions, you know, one here on this card leads to the castle. One actually leads to, it looks like the dark forest. It's just got like a dark tree on the sign. I'm not sure if you can see that very well. And even though the forest has some, you know, faces in the rocks and the roots and the trees, it is lighter and brighter. The forest gets darker and darker and it looks scarier and scarier. So, yeah, so be aware. Be aware of what choices you're making at this time. I hope you have a great full moon, and if you can spend some time maybe like meditating on what decisions you need to make or asking for some higher guidance. It does seem to be recommending that here multiple times. However, yeah, I hope you have a great full moon. If you've made it this far and you've gotten something out of the reading, if it's resonated or not, let me know in the comments. Like and or subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for returning, and I'll be back again soon with another reading. Bye. Take care.